NFL Week 12 is here, and it is time to navigate those bye weeks and injuries with some streaming options. Who are we without on our bye weeks, though, Ed?
After a quieter week last week, only 2 teams on bye. We're back to a more significant 4 teams out this week. The Broncos, so you'll be without Bo Nix and RJ Harvey. No need to be disappointed by Cortland Sutton, but you do also lose the newfound flex spot value of Troy Franklin. Chargers, you're losing Herbert, who's currently QB4. He gets a rest week after the Week 11 shocker. And we're without 4 pass-catching options in Allen, McConkey, Johnston, and Gadsden. Given Johnston's up and down stat lines recently, that may be a blessing for you. The Dolphins, you're missing Achan, you're missing Waddle, and the 23% of leagues rostering him are without Tua. Probably a good thing. Commanders, we lose Debo and Zaka along with the now eternally disappointing JCM. And there are a number of injuries to consider as well, are there not, Mark?
Of course, all right. It's week 12, so our squads are decimated. So, as always, this is not an exhaustive list. There are loads of players who get the rest days on a Wednesday and limited on Thursdays as teams preserve their assets as we approach the end of the season. But Michael Penix's season is done. He has had season-ending knee surgery. So if you were relying on Michael Penix, a backup plan is required. Hopefully, you had one in place already if you were rostering Penix, though. Jackson Dart out with concussion once more. More Jameis Winston. Let's roll the dice one more time. Joe Burrow. The reason he's on our graphic, Ed, is because it looks like he is targeting a return for next Thursday. He had a second full practice this Thursday. So we're recording Friday, so second full practice yesterday. It's not completely out of the question. We seem to be. I just don't see the point in him being risked this week. So I don't keep an eye on. I don't expect it to happen. Bucky Irving. I wrote my notes half an hour ago. He was limited with a chance to play. That chance is now 0. He has been declared out. Josh Jacobs is day to day. Hopefully we'll be back, but you may want to have a look elsewhere. It could give us some good value for Emmanuel Wilson this week. Chris Godwin logged a full practice on Thursday. We might finally have Chris Godwin back. That is fantastic news. Emeka Egbuka missed Thursday with illness. I expect he'll be back, but it's just one to keep an eye on. Drake London is out for week 12, hopeful to return in week 13. And Wicks, Golden, Watson, and Dobbs were all limited in practice this week, just in case you need any more reasons to have 0 confidence in your Green Bay Packers wide receivers. And finally, Joe Mixon looks like he's still on the pup list, so he's probably not going to feature at all this season. So for those of you who took a gamble on him late in your best ball or have been holding him on your IR spots, it looks like you are not going to be getting that value, unfortunately, this season. Before we move on then, please do take a moment to subscribe, like, give us a share for your streaming options every week. DFS picks, Hero, Zero, starts and sits. Ed, who are we looking at for some plug-and-play QBs if we are without Penix, Dart, or we are still crossing our fingers for a Burrow return?
Yes, several quarterbacks for your delectation this week. Starting off with Bryce Young, currently 24% rostered. Let's not forget he was QB2 last week with his highest ever fantasy score. So he's going to be full of confidence after what's been a fairly disappointing season. On the face of it, historically, I think you might consider the 49ers a tough matchup this week, but they are giving up the 9th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Is Young guaranteed to deliver? Of course he's not, but he could do you a job if in need. Moving on to Jacoby Brissett, 45% rostered. We mentioned him in the main show, and it's no surprise that his rostership has doubled this week. 5 consecutive starts, 5 consecutive top 12 finishes. He is consistency personified. The Jags this week is a nice matchup for him. They are giving up the 5th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. And I thought I had to mention Shedeur Sanders, 12% rostered. He gets his chance, maybe a lot earlier than it was looking like he might do at one stage this season. And he hardly set the place alight against the Ravens last week, playing half of the game, only completing 4 of 16 passes, and that included an interception. The Raiders are a more friendly matchup on paper, but the middle of the pack in terms of fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Will he step up? I'm not so sure. It's a big risk if you are looking to plug him in. You are taking your life into your own hand.
Let's have a look at some streaming tight ends as well then. And as always, let's go route one for our first pick. Hunter Henry has the Bengals. I think we mentioned it before, Ed. They're giving the most fantasy points per game to tight ends and another other metrics as well. So it's an easy pick. He is still available in just over a quarter of leagues. Bengals given at 21.94 fantasy points per game to tight ends. If he is available on your waiver wire and you need a tight end pick, problem solved. That's who you're going for this week. Colston Loveland has got the Steelers this week, so he is only 50% rostered. He has been quieter after that breakout game against the Bengals. Steelers are given the sixth most fantasy points against tight ends. So I think if he's still available, he could do a fair job this week. And then I've gone a little bit riskier than we normally do in this, just because there's a player with a route to some success, and that is Gunnar Helm. So definitely riskier, but his targets have been reasonable, and he's averaging 7.2 yards per target. Given the Seahawks are a soft matchup, so they're given the third most fantasy points per game to tight ends, this could be Helm's first fantasy relevant week this week, and he's available in 98% league. So if you are in a tough spot, you are almost certain to be able to get him. Moving on then, Ed, we always know there's only one way to play defense. You decree it to us all every single week. Who are our streaming options this week?
We have several options, as always, for you. First up, the Rams, currently 57% rostered. I feel like I mentioned the Rams most weeks, and their rostership does still surprise me. They are defense 5, and that's down to pure consistency. They've only let you down once this season, and they're averaging over 10 fantasy points per game. Now, they do have a tough matchup this week against Baker and the banged up Bucks, with a few players out. But they put up points against other fearsome offenses so far this season, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it again this week. The Bears are 22% rostered. After a strong start to the season, the Bears' defense has dealt in single-figure scores for the last 4 weeks, but they have a good matchup this week. They play the Steelers. And I wouldn't describe the Steelers' offense as anything more than solid this year. I think that's being kind. Whoever suits up at QB for the Steelers has a tough assignment. Rodgers is struggling to be fit, and Mason Rudolph is not very good. Yes, you could say he looked good against the Bengals last week, but I think I'd look pretty good against that Bengals defense. So I wouldn't, use that as a measure of a good quarterback. Finally, now I love talking about the Raiders when we come to streaming defenses, because they have been very popular on the waiver wire this week. Well done to those people who are streaming their defenses. At the start of the week, they were only 4% rostered, and they are now 37% rostered. And that is because they face the Browns and they face Shedeur Sanders. So you've got to expect them to make life very difficult for him. Their defense 28, the Raiders, so no real form at all. They've had 3 weeks where they've had double figures. But yeah, I would be surprised if they didn't make it a 4th week, because I do think the Browns will struggle this week with Shedeur Sanders under center.
Yeah, I've picked up the Raiders in loads of places this week when I was going through waves and selecting my streaming defenses. So I'm glad that you agree with me, Ed, and hopefully I've got them in a few places where you have not. Mm-hmm. Finally, then, we are going to take a moment to talk about the THFF Fantasy Football Best Bonanza, our charity Bestball tournament in support of the Beast and Memory Cafe, who are an amazing local charity over here in England, supporting those living with dementia and their carers. And Ed, this is the final week before we begin the playoffs, so it's very exciting. Up on the screen there, they are our current division leaders. So progressing through to our top 50 will be the 17 division leaders and then the next 30 after those. So shout out to Pit 56, Big Bods, April Ballask, Seagull Boy, Wardy 145, the only 12-0 player out of all of the participants still. 5 Yard Rush, P15572, very, very catchy name. J Harder 1280, and I'm on the Edge. PM Big Man, Draft Room Baller, SBen01, Vince Mapstone, Hallam 13, Kylie, RB Raven 30, and Wheezy 7. It's lovely to have your name said on something every now and then, isn't it?
Well done, Mark. That was spectacular, the way you took us through those names.
So for those of you who have not been a part of it this season, all of our leagues are named after popular children's TV shows. That is why there is those listed next to them. Let's take a look, though, at the larger playoff picture. So this is our current top 50. Ed, are there any players on there that are standing out to you, who have been involved in our leagues, or you have been tracking intently their progress through the tournament so far?
Well, of course, we can see the inimitable Mr. Azzo in there in the first column. 5-yard rushers, Murph, doing very well. I mean, there's a number of people on there who we've actually met in real life, which is excellent. Seagull Boy is a staple in a number of our leagues. But yeah, it's exciting to see that those familiar names as well as some names that are less familiar.
So Pete Picken 13 as well. He was very sad that he was just missing out on getting a shout out last time. So here is your shout out. Enjoy it and savor it. I think we must also mention, when we think fantasy football and charity Bestball in the UK, the name Cullen stands out loud and proud. But Matthew Cullen, who runs the JTT Cup, is second in the Cullen family, because Hudson Cullen, his son, is destroying him so far this season. So congratulations to Hudson.
What I loved during the drafting process was, because obviously Hudson couldn't have access to Sleeper, and so his dad was.
They were on holiday, weren't they, at the time? Yeah. So
you'd say things like, "Oh, he's gone to bed. He'll pick in the morning when he gets up." I loved it.
And he's still that beauty sleep obviously really helped to sharpen the choice as well. So Hudson is knocking it out of the park. I mentioned to HMS Rookie as well. So he joined some of our leagues a little while ago, and he's going to feature on our next slide as well, because he now has the 7th highest score over the last 2 years. We mentioned last time we kept our scores and rosters the same this year, so we could have this leaderboard. So we now have 2 teams who have made it onto that top 10. So congratulations to HMS Rookie. I can't even mention, so we can go back. I just want to shout out to abolts91, who also does pretty much every single league format we offer. He is a part of. So really glad to see him in there as well. Let's have a look at that playoff structure, though. So end of week 12, we will have our 17 division leaders and the next 33 highest scoring teams. They will make up, Ed, our final 50. That's going to be contested over 2 weeks. And that will then be complete points for. That'll be the only thing we take into account. Those top 16 after those 2 weeks will progress to the quarterfinal, where we've decided we're going to do some head-to-head draws, haven't we, for that?
Indeed. So yeah, you'll be. We'll do a random draw. I'm sure we can get Tom to use some wizardry to do that. Maybe just a random drawing website. I don't know. Maybe not quite wizardry. So yeah, it'll be head to head. So rather than high scores, we thought that added a bit of jeopardy into that stage.
And then it will culminate in week 17 with our fantasy 4-way championship, where our winner will be crowned. You don't crown with a ring, do you? Adorned with a beautiful THFF Bestball Bonanza ring that will wing its way in the post. I'm hoping, biasly, for a UK winner this year, because the postage
it was
set me back somewhat last year.
The postage last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping for a UK winner. Fingers crossed. We will not fix anything, though. If it's Final Four all UK, then you know there's been some shenanigans afoot. That is us for our whistle stop tour through some streaming options, though, Ed, and a visit of the TH Fantasy for Bestball Bonanza. Have you got anything you would like to add for week 12?
No. I'm looking forward to more NFL. I'm savouring it, because week 12 sounds like a long way into the season, doesn't it?
We are romping through, but we will be back tomorrow with our DFS red hot picks, and then next week we will revisit TH Fantasy Bestball Bonanza to announce our final 50 who will be on their quest for that glorious championship ring. But that's all from me. It's all from Ed. So all that remains to be said is bada bing, bada bye, and Malcolm, take us home.
You have been listening to the team from TH Fantasy Football. For more content, follow TH_fantasy_NFL on Twitter and Instagram.